Hello my friends, and welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. This is Cassie. Today I'm going to be bringing you something special. This is a collaboration of Tailored Expressions and Brutus Monroe. They got together and they have their own simple strips combined. This one is called Crafty. I don't know if you've seen Tailored Expressions simple strips before, but it's a genius idea. It's one giant stamp with 18 sentiments, and then you use this die to cut all of those sentiments out at one time. And like I said, they collaborated together and they have this one called Crafty. Tailored Expressions has several in their store, and I'll have those linked down below, but it's exciting. So let me show you how I use it. I cut down some paper. This is cut 5.5 inches by 6 inches, and I'm going to take all the guts out of my Misty. This is the best way to do it. If you have a giant, and I mean giant, block, you could probably do it, but this is the best way I have found to do it, is with a Misty or some sort of stamp positioning tool. And I'm going to ink this up with some Raven Detail ink. This is just some black ink, and you'll notice there are some squares. You want to ink those up too. Make sure you ink those up because that's how you're going to line your die up. So I'm going to ink that up really well, close the door of the Misty. I'm going to use a microfiber cloth to just kind of get my hand moving a little easier so that I can make sure and get a good impression. That just helps my hand slide better. And then we'll ink it up one more time and just stamp that down again. And there you have it. Just that easy to stamp 18 sentiments all at once. I'm going to clean that stamp off really well. And then we're going to move on and we're going to do a black one because I'm going to make a bunch of cards for you today. I want to show you, I had all these sentiments. I definitely had to make a bunch of cards. So I'll clean that off with my squeaky clean and my microfiber cloth. And then I'm going to grab a black or a Raven piece of cardstock. And this one again measures 5.5 inches by 6 inches. And then I will use my magic powder bag on that because I'm going to emboss this. And then I'll use a Nouveau brush to kind of wipe away any of the excess. Don't worry about the residue that it leaves behind that on the black cardstock. That will wipe away later. And you're going to want to use a clear sticky ink. I'm using embossing ink by Brutus Monroe. I'll ink that up and then close the door of the Misty once again. Make sure that you are covering those squares because again, that's how you're going to line up your die. So I'll close the door and I'm going to just for safe measure ink that up one more time. Close the door, and then we'll get a good impression. And I'm going to pull out my Alabaster Embossing Powder by Brutus Monroe. It's just a very fine detail white embossing powder. And I'll cover that with that. And then we'll get ready to heat emboss this. And you could do this obviously with all kinds of colors of cardstock if you wanted. And I love it. So Tailored Expressions also has recently come out with a way to store these. I have one coming. I don't have it yet, but I have one coming. This way I can have all of my simple strips in one place. So I'm going to clean that off with my microfiber towel. That'll get rid of all the excess residue. And then we'll pull out the die and you'll see the magic. So if you haven't seen this before, your mind's going to be blown. If you have, you know just how cool it really is. So I'll line that die up using those squares, and I'll tack it down with a little bit of purple tape. Washi tape would work fine too. But you definitely want to make sure that you're tacking it down. You don't want this to shift while you're putting it through your die cutting machine. And just for extra measure, we'll even use one more piece. Run that through the die cutting machine, and there you have it. 18 sentiments all cut out. Tailored Expressions also has another die that will give you rounded edges. This one gives you a flag banner, but there's another one with rounded edges. And then we'll do it on our white piece of cardstock as well. And I love it. I love all those wonderful, wonderful sentiments. They're fantastic. All, you can send to your crafty friends. Heck, even your non-crafty friends. But look at those. Isn't that great? Home is where the art is. Sending you handmade hugs. And there's that one in there that says create your own ending in Christopher's handwriting that I just absolutely adore. So there you have it. Simple strips. Crafty. And I will have it linked down below. All right, for all the cards I'm showing you today, we're going to be doing some foiling using a laminator. And so I have some DecoFoil transfer gel. We also have these brand new DecoFoils by Brutus Monroe. This one is called Blue Waves, and I love it. And then we also have this one called Rainglow. Isn't that so beautiful? All right, we're also going to be using the Sea Skin Stencil, and we're going to be using the See You Soon stamp set. Those together for one stamp or for one card. We're also going to be using the butterfly sentiments. We're going to be using the petal die. I'll show you how to use that as a stencil. Then we also have some other stencils in the mix. We have the simple blends called Sweet Sentiment. Then we have the paint spots and the August stencil of the month. All right, let's get started with our first card. So I just have a piece of cardstock cut down to 4¼ by 5½ inches, so it's the whole front of an A2 size card. I have some Simon Hurley ink in the color Clear Sky. No, this is Remember Me. And I have my Pink and Main Ergo brush, and I am just going to kind of do an ombre look starting from that right-hand side and then work my way across so it's darker going into lighter. And once I'm happy with the blend, we will clean off our mess with our microfiber cloth, and we'll kind of clean up our brush a little bit, set that off to the side, and we'll pull out our Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. So this isn't a slimline card, but I am using a slimline stencil, so those babies have a lot of versatility. And let me show you the DecoFoil. We're going to use this for all the cards, or the DecoFoil transfer gel. There are two kinds of gels. I have just the regular transfer gel for a laminator, but there is the transfer gel called Duo, and that works well if you don't have a laminator and you want to run it through your die cutting machine. So you can do that. I have a laminator and I have plenty of this, so I'm just going to use this stuff. This works just fine. Actually, it works really, really well. And I'm using my stencil pal to move that gel across my stencil, going from left to right. I don't want it to be a perfect blend all the way across, and I'm just, kind of letting it fade out, almost like the ombre does as well. So we'll just keep working that. And then when I'm happy with that, we'll pull the stencil back and you'll see how the gel is. It goes on white, but it will dry clear. It will be clear and it will be tacky, and you're going to need to let that sit for about an hour, or at least until it is clear. This is what it's going to look like when it's all ready to go. I've got my DecoFoil, this is the blue waves again. I've got that cut down. That's going to go right on top of my piece, and I'm going to use this is my Amazon Basics laminator. I've got a piece of copy paper that I've just folded in half, and then I'm going to run that through my laminator. And with these, you only have to run it through one time. So I'll run it through once, and I do have this sped up twice, so obviously it takes a little bit longer than this. But once that comes out, like I said, just one time, unlike when I'm using foilables, this is just a little different. And then you're going to let that cool a little bit, and then you can slowly peel back your DecoFoil, and you'll see your magic. And is that not super, super cool? So it makes for some very quick cards, really, other than sitting there waiting for it to dry. And then I already have a card base ready to go, and all of my elements have already been stamped and colored, so we're mostly just focusing on the foiling today. So yes, you'll see that sandcastle. I had already stamped that out, and isn't that beautiful? Ugh, that's so pretty. And I also had one of the little mermaids all stamped out and colored. And I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of one of the sentiments that I've chosen, along with some foam tape on the back of my sandcastle. And then I'll adhere those right down to the front of my card. And the one I chose is Sending Handmade Hugs. And I thought that would go perfect with the sandcastle, because you got to make those by hand too. And to get my sentiment on there straight, I'm going to use a T-ruler. And then I'll just use some liquid glue to adhere down my mermaid to the inside of the card. And I am going to grab another one of the little sentiments. I mean, heck, I have so many sitting over there. So I'll just grab another one and I'll glue that down to the other side. Do something creative every day. That is an awesome idea. I'm all on board for that. But that finishes off our first card. And we're definitely going to do some more foiling and show you all kinds of ways to use the new foil along with these awesome sentiment strips. For card number 2, we had already gone ahead and used that Deco transfer gel using the August stencil of the month over the top of some Raven cardstock. And so I let that dry for a while, and now it's clear and tacky and ready to go. And I'm going to cut down some of the new Rainglow foil. This stuff is just beautiful, and I don't want to waste any of it, so I'm going to trim it down. And actually, I found the easiest way to trim it is using one of these wire trimmers. It just works beautifully. It cuts it straight, and it's great. All right, now we'll pull out the copy paper and our laminator, and then we'll get ready to run this through, just making sure everything's lined up. Stick it between the copy paper. And if you do have any of the excess transfer gel showing, like it's not covered by some of the foil, it will stick to your paper. And I did have some of that happen. So I did have to trim this down just a little bit. It wasn't that big of a deal, but as you can see, I do have some paper stuck to the edge. But peeling that away, is that not gorgeous? Oh, and even the leftover piece is really pretty. So there it is, super beautiful, and I'm going to trim that down, and I'll have a border on the left and right hand side. And I'm using some rouge cardstock as my base, and then I'll just attach this using some liquid glue. So like I said, I would say quick cards, but it does take some time for these to dry. If you did up a bunch of them ahead of time and just let those sit to dry, you can have some cards cranked out in no time. And then I'll use some Doris skinny strips on the back of my sentiment strips. Just trim those down, peel off the excess, or peel off the release paper, use my T-ruler. That's the easiest way I've found to make sure that I get those sentiments on there straight. And this one will say, "Hello, crafty friend, you bling me joy." And then for a final bit of embellishment, which probably was unnecessary, I did grab some glitter drops, and I put those down, but when it dries, you can't really see it that well. But there it is, card number 2, just beautiful. Love how that one turned out. Okay, for our third card, I want to show you all the new DecoFoil colors that there are. We have Enchanted Rose, Peach Princess, Lily Pad, Glass Slipper, and Prince Periwinkle, and they're all super beautiful. And so I'm going to trim down those pieces, and we're going to move on to our next card, which I've already prepared that one using the Deco Transfer Gel. And I used that simple blend called the Sweet Sentiment Simple Blend. And all I'm going to do is actually trim down just 4 of those colors. I'll use my scissors and trim those down, and you can do this. You wouldn't be able to run multiple through, meaning like multiple times, so you'd have to do it all at once, because otherwise that sticky will just stick to wherever. But you can do it this way. So I'm going to cover all 4 of those little speech bubbles that I had using 4 different colors, and you just want to make sure that they're completely covered. But yeah, you can absolutely use different colors all at once if you'd like, as long as things aren't overlapping. And so you'll see I'm trimming down a couple of those colors just to make sure that they don't overlap and that they'll still cover those little speech bubbles. So we'll run that through our laminator again, and just one time, like I've said. And then there it is. Let it cool for a second or so, and then you can peel away your foil. And I love it. So super fun. It's super shiny and pretty and simple, really. So there that is, and I trimmed it down, and my card base is some key lime cardstock by Brutus Monroe, and I wanted some matching from the edge to the front, and so I'm just going to use some 1/4-inch score tape. You can use score tape with your foils as well, so I just put that all along that edge. I'll trim that down so that it fits perfectly. I'll peel off the release paper from that score tape, and then I'm going to grab out the Lily Pad foil, and then you just stick that right down. I have a little bit of a mishap. It almost could have been bad, but it flips on me and then it sticks to that. Thankfully I was able to peel it away, no problem. It didn't ruin anything, but you can just keep going, and it looks pretty flawless, honestly. So you just keep going until that score tape is covered, and like I said, it looks pretty flawless. So I'll take my panel and I'm going to cover the back of that with some foam tape, just for a little bit of dimension. Then I'll peel off all the release paper on that foam tape, and I'll stick that down to the front of my card base, making sure to leave that lily pad so it's poking. And then to adhere my sentiments, I'm just going to use some liquid glue, since I already used foam tape to adhere down the panel. And my T-ruler, got to use that T-ruler. And then I'll put those sentiments right across the speech bubbles. I like that. Sending smiles and sparkle, and crafty and proud. So those are fun. Right across those speech bubbles. And then that's going to do it for our third card. Super simple, fun card, using all the new foils. Well, almost all the new foils. Alright, for our fourth card, I had once again already prepared a card panel. I had did some ombre inking using some Overzealous ink by Simon Hurley, and then I used this Paint Spot Stencil by Brutus Monroe, and I even stamped and colored out these little butterflies from the Butterfly Sentiment stamp set. And I'm going to use the Lily Pad Deco foil on this one. So I'll run this through my laminator, putting that, of course, in between my copy paper, and just send that on through the laminator. And this one, oof, this one gets me. It is, I think they're all really pretty, but it's that Deco foil. It's just stunning. So then let that cool a little bit, pull that away, and be in awe. I think that is just so cool. And then we'll get ready to start decorating the front. So once again, we'll pull out those Dries skinny strips, put that on the back of one of the sentiments, and then we'll attach that down using our T-ruler again. Crafty is the new pretty. Love it. And then we're going to attach that panel down to our card base. Probably should have done my inside first, but I didn't. I do like that I have a little white border around this one. I think that's just kind of pretty. And then for my butterfly, I'm going to put some foam tape just on the wings. So I'll have 4 tiny pieces of foam tape just on the wings. And I'm actually going to take the liquid glue and just put that right in the center of the butterfly, and then adhere that down to the front of the card so it looks like the butterfly's wings are propped up, but the butterfly himself is not. So I'll just hold that there for a second and let that dry. And then I do want to add a little bit more embellishment. So I've got some orange Prism Sequins by Brutus Monroe, and I'll just stick those down using some of that same liquid glue along with my Crystal Katana. And don't worry, the white will dry clear, so that won't stick through. And then I should have done this first, but I will adhere another sentiment. I used my good paper for you. That makes me laugh. And then another butterfly on the inside, and then that's going to finish off our 4th card. Another, just that Deco foil, I'm telling you, it just adds something to the card. Then you just add down those sentiment strips and you have some super easy cards. The final 2 cards I'm going to show you actually use a die, and we use the die. I cut it out of some very heavyweight cardstock. That was the Not Your Mama's heavyweight cardstock, which is 130 pounds, so it's kind of like a stencil. And then I have my card panel down. We're going to tack that down with a little bit of purple tape, and then I'm going to use some pixie spray on the back of my die cut cardstock. That'll just kind of hold that piece in place, so that way when I go to put the Deco foil transfer gel over the top, it's not going to move anything, because there's no other way to really tack it down. So this was the best way I found to do this. So I'll just tack that down, and I'm going to use my rubber spatula along with that Deco foil transfer gel, and I'm going to be pretty liberal putting that all over the front. This is so cool because not only are we going to get a card, but we'll get 2 cards out of this one. This is why I want to make sure and have that transfer gel all over the front and inside through that stencil, or not really stencil, through the die cut as well. So we'll make sure that that's good and even using that stencil pal. I'll scrape off all the excess and put that back in the jar, close that up, and then we'll remove the die cut that we were using as a stencil, and we're going to set that off to the side to dry about an hour or so. Just wait till it's clear and tacky, and then also you'll see the stencil piece down below, and we're going to set that off to the side and use that later. I won't show you exactly how I make that one, but you'll see it in the end. But that one takes a bit to dry as well. So very cool, but here we go. I went ahead and used the Peach Princess on this one, ran that through my laminator, and that turned out so cool. I'm going to use some liquid glue on this piece, just in prominent areas, not all over the back of this. And I did use a little bit of ink. I ink blended onto some yellow cardstock that I had just in my stash, just on the edges. That way it added a little bit of a glow in the center. And I'll tack this down to the front of that card base. And then I have 3 sentiments picked out for this. But I love how that turned out. Oh, so cool. So I've got 3 sentiments picked out. I'm going to put some skinny strips on the back of all 3 of those. So this will give it extra dimension. And then I'll use my T-ruler to tack those down and try to make sure they're as straight as possible. Unfortunately, they're not evenly spaced, but you get the gist, and I really do like how this one turned out. And I had to use that create your own ending. But there we go. That one finishes off card number 5, and I'll show you quickly card number 6, which is just using the stencil bit from this one. And a couple more sentiments, but I love how that one turned out as well. So let's get a refresher. We used the collaboration of Tailored Expressions and Brutus Monroe's The Simple Strips-Crafty Love that we were able to get so many sentiments out of one stamp set and then just using this die. Again, all that will be linked down in the description box down below. But let's take a look at the 6 cards that I did make today. I would love to know what you think. Have you tried foiling? Would you give it a try? What do you think of the stamp set? Is that not super cool? Leave that down in the comment section down below. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video, and thank you so much for stopping by.